back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com. Podcast as the entire crew is with us, even Josh McQuistion, who is on vacation, and we actually were hoping that he just blew us off.
Oh, wow.
We had all kinds of shit to talk, and then boom, all of a sudden. I was predicting...
Out of nowhere.
Josh, I was predicting like day drinking and you calling in 45 minutes after the pod started, or not calling in, but just texting us saying, hey guys, do you need me? I can still hop on.
That is a favored maneuver of mine, especially with day drinking. Now, I will say... For all of this vacation, I have not touched a drop of alcohol yet. Unbelievably enough,
that's coming, huh?
Yeah, it's a surprise to me as well. I'm not saying this was the plan. Tiffany has come down with the flu, so I've been on full-time dad duty for most of the vacation so far.
Well, now she can't save a life now that she's got the flu on this vacation, like she did on the last one.
Yes, it's a little less dramatic this time around, that's for sure.
By the way, we got some interesting things to get to today. It has been a little slow on the recruiting, probably the slowest it's been in a year. I mean, really, slowest it's been since Brent Venables has been the head coach for sure, because they're just, and that's good. I mean, the coaches need some time off. I mean, this calendar has been ridiculous. I mean, there's a reason that they're talking about changing it, but we'll get what we'll talk about what theirs. Josh was just at some camps. Josh, here's one thing I wanted to ask you, and we have a Bears fan in the room, so I better watch myself. And Bob, feel free to chime in. I'm fascinated by the decision that the Bears have. Like,
right? Me too, actually.
Is it worth taking a potential franchise quarterback and trading him when you think you have a better franchise quarterback in Bryce Young on the hook?
I think it is.
Would you do it? Would you do it, Josh?
Yes. 2 years in, Justin Fields has shown promise. I'm not saying he hasn't, but I think you can get some value for him on somebody who doesn't have any, any hope of, okay, this next guy is our guy. As a Colts fan, I would gladly take Justin Fields over with the possibility of Will Levis, which makes me want to throw up a little bit.
Oh, they're saying Richardson today. I saw a mock with Richardson in
Richardson?
Today. Yeah.
He's that high up?
As number one.
God.
CBS,
Even
apparently.
worse.
Really?
Yeah, I think On
Even
3 has him.
Well, the On 3 was,
as well.
They were showing CBS's mock draft. It was On 3 tweet.
Gotcha. Okay.
Here's the problem. Everybody, when these exceptions happen, like Josh Allen suddenly becoming a 65% passer when he'd shown that at no point in his career, or Pat Mahomes refining his game under a great offensive mind like Andy Reid. And I think guys like us that saw Pat Mahomes for several years and got to watch full games, we knew the talent was there. I think more people are surprised about him than should be. But everybody takes these outliers and is like, well, okay, just find every athletic freak that can't complete passes with any sort of consistency, and the NFL will just coach him up and fix it up. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
that
Pat Mahomes was never
outlier.
Pat Mahomes was never Justin Fields. I mean, he was never he was better as a passer. I mean, Justin Fields was a better passer at Ohio State than a lot of players, but I mean, like the Richardson kid, he is not Pat Mahomes. Sorry, there's nothing. There's no Will Levis as Pat Mahomes as a thrower. It's just not. It's not there. It's not comparable.
No, they're both amazing athletes, but it's kind of it's one of those things where Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, say we're talking back half of the first round, okay, right. I can get behind that risk reward. But number 4. No, you can have a future all-pro. I mean, guys, we're talking about that's where Trent Williams was drafted. That's where Lane Johnson was drafted. You could have your 10-year tackle at that position, with multiple Pro Bowls, probably, maybe a Hall of Fame career, or, this isn't a great tackle draft, but just as an example, you have that ability to draft that level of player, and instead you're going to take a quarterback. And I'll come back to the original question. I would do that for Bryce Young because to me in this NFL era, if you don't have the quarterback, you're nowhere. So I I know that the two things I'm saying don't make sense there, and I acknowledge it. But you have to have some level of belief. And I don't have any belief in anybody outside of Stroud and Young, and I think Young is better of the two by miles.
I pulled up that On3 tweet, CBS mock draft. Congratulations, Josh McCuistion. Your Colts are taking Anthony Richardson with the first pick. But they also have C.J. Stroud ranked 8th in this mock draft. So congratulations. We read through the smoke screen. Josh, you're going to get C.J. Stroud as your first pick.
I can live with
I'd
C.J.
live with
Stroud.
that, yeah.
I can get my head around that one. Because I think there's a world where he's a better pro than he was a college guy with all the run scheme and all the stuff they do in college that doesn't fit him as well. Or at least that's not what he wants to do. Clearly against Georgia, he can do it. It's just not what he wants to do.
Where do you think Will Anderson will rank in terms of Alabama defensive players? I guess the question I'm asking, will he be more impactful than anyone other than some of the defensive linemen that have come into the league?
I think so. I think you're going, if you want to talk about Alabama pass rushers, I think you're going back to Derek Thomas. I think he's that special. Now, will he be that good? I don't know. But the thing about him is everything you hear is not just oh, he's a great talent, he's a great player. This is a guy that came back when, I guess, no, he's a junior. He's a junior. But he could have sat out the bowl game. He could have done all that stuff. He didn't do any of it. Everything you hear about him is he's made up of the right stuff. He acts like a pro. He does all the little things that you need to do to be better. And then you mix that with he's 6'5" and can run. Guys, think about this. Drew Sanders has a chance to be a first-round NFL pick. If not, he's a second-rounder. And he couldn't sniff the field on those amongst Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. That tells you how prodigious that kid's talent is.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at. I just looked up Alabama NFL just to kind of look at some of the players, and it is amazing that as good as they are, they put a lot of guys in the league, but they don't really have that
superstar guy.
Yeah, they don't have that Aaron defensive tackle. Donald. They don't have that type of player in the league.
It was Julio for a while. That was the guy you're whoa, that's a freak. He's
thought it'd be
legitimately
Quinnen Williams, but
I thought he was going to be awesome.
He had a pretty good year, Quinnen Williams.
And he got hurt. And
he's been battling.
Derrick Henry, I guess, has kind of been that guy for a while.
Sure. Rolando McClain was really good, and then he just quit out of the blue. But I think he had some kind of mental health issues.
Alabama has an NFL problem. I think that's what we've gotten to.
Why would you go to Bama, right? That was the question that was asked.
This is something you hear, to kind of bring it to recruiting a little bit. This is something you hear a lot from schools that recruit the big, I don't know of a better way to put it than the suburban schools, the Allens, the South Lake Carrolls, some of that stuff where they're these guys are pretty maxed. They've been in a real weight program. They've got coaches, they've got a full-time strength and conditioning coach. It's not some guy that's oh, I lift weights in the summer and so I'll be the S&C guy. This is a dude that he knows nutrition. He knows all the proper stuff. He is, and there's only a couple of them in the state of Oklahoma. I know Jordan Johnson at Owasso, and I believe Jinx has one still because Jordan came over from Jinx. And I think they hired a replacement. I believe Bixby has one as well. I know
Imagine
Bixby,
that. It's those three schools.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you know who, Eddie, you may remember this name. It's Connor Myers.
Yeah.
Used to be the D-lineman at Edmond Memorial.
Yeah.
So, was a really good high school player, just undersized. But
what about Ashawn Robinson? That's another name that was just big time.
And again, a guy kind of broke the streak there for a while. A lot of people tell you can't recruit Fort Worth ISD. Those guys just don't pan out. You had Darius White way back in the day. Rashad Favors, was a teammate of Darius, but there's been a lot of them, including the kid that went to Baylor a few years ago, the receiver that was so good. But But there's been two. There's Ashawn came out and had a nice career, and then the receiver that went to Oklahoma State. His brother was the quarterback, and I'm just going to blank out on their names. He got drafted by the Ravens a couple years ago.
Wallace.
Yeah.
Tylan Wallace.
Yeah, I couldn't think of Tylan Wallace. Yeah.
Tylan and Tracine, I think.
I think that's right. Because he had the big game in Bedlam. He was kind of hurt, and OSU, if I remember right, came back. He had a couple big catches late in that one.
2018, the 48-47.
Yeah.
Really, it's like, I mean, what's funny is, like, I'm just kind of roster hopping here real fast, but, like, that 2013 team that OU beat, like, look at the names that were good in the NFL, like Ha-Ha Clinton-Dix.
They were all young, too.
I mean, Amari Cooper. By the way, A.J. McCarron's a quarterback in the XFL.
XFL legend, A.J. McCarron.
I thought it was kind of sweet. He said he wanted to play so his sons could see him play football. I thought it was kind of sweet. But who was the linebacker that year that was like all everything? C.J. Mosley. Like, he's still in the league and starting. Like, and he had a terrible game that game. And I remember seeing him when we were doing individual interviews, and I just thought, like, this is the guy? Like, this is an Alabama, 5-star linebacker? Because, Reuben Foster
Henry walked in and was like, shit.
Well, Reuben Foster was on that roster, too. And, I mean, Reuben Foster is probably the first guy when he was at the first 5-star, Josh, when I saw him on the field, I was like, I need to leave. This man scares me just looking at him. I mean, he was a beast.
Guys, listen to this Alabama freshman class on that roster. This is the freshman class. Alvin Kamara, Reuben Foster, Derrick Henry, Eddie Jackson, Chris Black, Robert Foster was on that team. Let's see. Cooper Bateman didn't do much. But, like, Alti Tenpenny was the kid from Arkansas that was a big deal.
Yeah.
The Dalvin Tomlinson kid that I think ended up at Duke, if I remember right, and became I want to say he was a first or second round pick, if I remember right. So
my all-time man crush was on that.
Tim Williams
in that class too. O.J. Howard.
O.J. Howard was awesome.
O.J. Howard, Ashawn Robinson. I mean, I'm still just Jonathan Allen was in that class. I mean, like, that freshman class had like 12 high-end draft picks in it.
I can see why they had quite a bit of success from 2014 to whenever.
Hey, but all those guys were rated 3 stars. Stars don't matter.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
No, I'm sorry for taking us on the Alabama tangent like that. But look, we got some stuff to get to OU related. It is time for our Enjoy Fresh Perspective look ahead as we've got, there's not a lot to look ahead to after last night's basketball game. Baseball is getting things started. Softball lost a game. Like, what happened there?
Because I'm covering you.
Bob, you're a jinx. I've got a really good softball NIL story for you later. So basketball, at least we don't have to send Bob. We don't have to spend money sending Bob to Kansas City because we know that's not worth it. But looks like they're squarely, you can almost put the...
In Penn, they're the 10 seed.
You can put their nail in their coffin because they're not going to the NCAA tournament. Enjoy Fresh Perspective, look ahead, brought to you by Enjoy Vision. Eddie is not only a client, but he's also a client.
Yeah, I kind of wish, after watching OU play basketball for the last 2 months, I kind of wish that I didn't have great vision. Yeah, I might have to go in and see if they can just blind me. Enjoy Vision is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, not even close. Combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. One of the easiest things that I've done, it was something that I had, always thought about doing, and I was just always kind of worried about, I guess, getting over that hump and having people operate on my eyes. It was truly easy. Couple pre-check appointments, went in, 3 hours later, I had perfect vision. So you can go to enjoywithme.com, use the promo code U40 to save and start seeing as good as me. They're giving $400 off LASIK, so it's a pretty good deal. That is the letter N, J-O-Y, withme.com, promo code U40. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
And they also give you free drugs.
That's right.
Okay, it is time now for our Enjoy Vision look ahead or look back, which is much more constructive this week as we had the big media scrum We're going to talk a lot about that and what happened there. Brent Venables had a 52-minute press conference. We got to talk to all the players. I had a chance to talk to Trace Ford, Jackson Arnold, PJ, the transfer from Michigan, who I really enjoyed talking to. Softball lost their first game to Baylor, and we also had Bijan Cortez taking a leave of absence just hours before Oklahoma took on Texas Tech, and we're going to talk more with that with Bob Przbillo, who is here as well. But guys, let's start off with, and then of course Josh was at a recruiting camp, the UC camp, and he'll update us on what he saw there. Lots of interviews from that as well. But let's start off with the Brent Venables press conference and the media blitz that we were allowed to have. And once again, none of us have ever seen anything like that. Me in 20 years.
Nope.
I know, Bob, you wrote about that as the lead in your story. But every single newcomer, every single recruit was in there that's mid-semester transfer. And nothing was off limits. I mean, when I talked to Trace Ford, he was wide open, and he kept getting asked over and over. It was like a round table, like a group would come and ask a lot of the same questions just been asked. But Trace Ford, handled the questions about transfer and the announcement and all the trolling OSU fans have done to him, and he admitted he trolled them a little bit with the announcement. But start with you, Eddie. Let's start with you. Just kind of what your biggest impressions and takeaways from that day. Other than Danny Stutzman is a massive, massive human being.
Yeah, his chest has gotten massive. It was pretty impressive to see. I think that we all said last week that we weren't going to come in here and say how well spoken everybody was, articulate, but I was pretty blown away with how well they handled the media stuff, just from an aspect of being pretty upfront with everything. Rondell Bothroyd I thought was pretty impressive in how he went about kind of answering how he got to Oklahoma, and the buy-in from a lot of the guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and, kind of an idea of, like, why the hell would you come here, considering what they put out there on the field a year ago. But I don't know. I like Deshaun McCulloch. I know that, Bob, you wrote about him today, just kind of being ready to kind of fill into the cheetah position from day one. There's a lot of these guys, though, that we talked to last week, whether it be a Rondell Bothroyd or Trace Ford or Deshaun, whoever. Reggie Pearson I thought was pretty impressive. They have to come in and be day one contributors. I mean, they have to come in and give some type of contribution from day one, or this. I'm not going to say it's all for naught, but I did think that Peyton Bowen, Jackson Arnold, they've been through this before, but even Peyton Bowen and kind of his pitch and why he decided to ultimately end up at Oklahoma, I thought was kind of interesting, just as far as buying into what Brent Venables has done, his track record, not just what he did a year ago or what they didn't do a year ago.
The whole story about Peyton Bowen and Oregon and not putting AM or PM
thing.
on this.
I didn't even know that that's a thing. I don't know. Is that I don't think he lied about it.
No, but I wondered if Oregon could not have pressed the issue if they wanted to.
Sure.
And said, well, we have. I mean, obviously, it's kind of cool
Oregon
on their
doesn't
part.
Strike me as a school that's just making sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed, right?
Yeah, I mean, what would have been the problem? I guess if
what if they just wrote it in for him?
Yeah, exactly. Like he signed it. I mean.
Dan Lanning doesn't have problems handing out bags of cash, but he can't put AM or PM.
I guarantee Dan Lanning.
I'm stunned that's where the line fell.
I guarantee Dan Lanning probably didn't know about it. Probably compliance called and didn't get him involved. And once he found out, I bet he was super pissed.
I had never heard that story. And, Jackson talked about how the entire, because everybody thought Peyton was going to do OU from the get-go. Yeah. And then, I think the surprise, I think he was, almost genuinely kind of hurt that he's like, did my best friend lie to me this entire time? What the hell happened? But, the biggest takeaway for me was just, it seems like as a whole, there is a certain particular type of player that Oklahoma's going after, and particularly in the portal. Bob, you've talked about this before. Yep. It's going to be a guy that, are you a captain? Are you somebody that has been looked at as a leader on your former college team? And if you are, those kind of are gateways to start a transfer portal recruiting process from Oklahoma.
I'm going to say that from what I witnessed, I do not believe that there are any Brandon Millers in that room last week.
But will it work? That's what I'm like. You brought Jonah Laulu and TD Roof. You brought high character guys last year too.
Sure. Well,
does it pan out?
They got to be able to stay healthy.
I think we can all agree. Justin Broyles, high character guy.
Sure, that doesn't mean that he's going to win a Butkus Award.
That didn't stop Brent Venables from this quote, which was, "I think we'll be an improved group."
Oh man, that was nasty.
Talking about safeties, we lost a bunch of guys. We know that we didn't lose a lot of production in the secondary,
bodies.
But we lost a bunch of bodies.
That's savage.
That
Just
really
savage.
was. I don't think people heard it initially when it was. I looked at Eli. I'm like, dude, did you just hear that? He's like, what? No, seriously, you need to go back and listen to that. That was woo.
Yeah, that's one of those where Britt talks a lot and he slipped that in, and people kind of went under the radar. And then after you transcribe and read it back, you're like, whoa. To repeat that, he didn't lose a lot of production. We didn't lose a lot of production in the secondary, but we lost a bunch of bodies.
Ahmad Kaba ricochet shots almost.
Wow. Hey.
It is what it is, but it's true. Like,
It's absolutely true.
Look at all the places that these guys
lost.
landed.
I mean, they still have Woody back. It's not a shot at Woody. It's not a shot at Jaden Davis.
I don't think it's a shot at Broyles. I think it's
a little bit of a shot at Royals.
God, can it just be honest? It can just be honest, right? Like that's just like it is what it is. I don't know. I think we're all a bit like I think we all expected things to change, and I still don't understand why the personnel didn't change more in the secondary. But at the same time, like, I say this as a guy that thinks again, we say this every damn time. Think the world of Justin Broyles. Think he's going to be great as a person and whatever he's going to do. But as a college football player, there's not a lot of evidence to say he's the guy. That's the guy you want to, like that's a huge loss for your defense.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Bowman's still there. You're bringing in Peyton Bowen. You've got, guys. Pearson coming in. I mean, and we don't know about him. I mean, he's a guy. He's a fifth. He's a super. He's just a fifth year. He's a super senior. I can't remember. I know Bothroyd's a super senior. I think Pearson is a super senior.
I think that's right. I'm checking. I should have it marked on my.
Oh, it says right there. Eddie's got the.
Yeah, he's a fifth.
Yes.
He's a fifth. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the super seniors, Austin Stogner, Bothroyd, and Reggie Pearson.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
I say fifth. That's confusing.
It doesn't mean anything now.
I put the 5 next to it. If that's my little markation of a guy that's literally playing his 5th year of football.
And I hate to say that, but it is a bit of an indictment if you're a super senior. It just means that you weren't ready to go to the NFL.
Unless you had an injury.
Yeah, Bothroyd talked about he made that he had to make a decision.
Yeah.
And does he want to put tape together or just take a chance and kind of bet on himself? And I think that he looked at what Todd Bates had put together, a little bit of more freedom in what they want to do with the defensive line. And it kind of seems almost too like they've sold these guys, particularly the portal guys, and then maybe even some of the freshman guys that like what they did a year ago is far from what they want to be able to do here in years to come.
Yeah, because they mentioned a lot. Like they were showing Clemson film.
Right.
Clemson film. It was like the OU film didn't
that
correlate.
Stuck out to me as well.
It didn't correlate to what we're actually trying to do.
It was almost, and I know that they didn't do this, but it's almost to the point of it's like they just almost had to grit their teeth and say, we're going to get through this shit this year and move on after that. It's like, it is what it is. We inherited what we inherited.
And just talking about the roster turnover, he's basically saying we've had to reboot this program.
Yeah, I mean, that's a stunning number. What was it? 53 of the 71 guys on the Alamo Bowl roster are no longer with the program. And I get that, obviously some are going to graduate, some are going to leave, some are going to declare, all that kind of stuff. But the turnover in, just over 365 days it's been incredible. 13 months, basically.
Well, and part of it is just guys left that didn't need to leave, like the Trayvon West and who's the other receiver?
Darby.
Brian Darby. Like they if they just stuck around, they would have gotten playing time.
It's stunning to me how many of these guys that did enter the portal
that we still don't know. We don't know where
even
they're going.
Somebody like a Jordan Mukes, that it's just like
Abilene Christian. Yeah,
interesting. Like it's interesting to me that a bunch of these guys did not land at, what I would say is good programs.
Does it say more about what Grinch and previous staff did with evaluation process, or what happened when that kid arrived on campus and they didn't put in the work to become better?
Or like Mukes, I mean, we all thought he was a good player, but we didn't know where he fit. And, he was at corner, and we were like, corner? Really? Like, not safety? Like, sometimes those were the decisions. Not so much evaluation, but just position evaluation. Yeah. It was sometimes baffling. And then, of course, if you're a young guy, if you get put in a position you're learning for the first time, you're not natural at, you get frustrated, and then you leave. So I think Josh, I think it's just a lot of those things. It's hard to pinpoint just one.
Oh, yeah. It's not – well, because, I mean, guys, like we talk about that being a Grinch thing. Look at Alton Tarber. He still doesn't have a home as far as I know.
No.
And, that's a guy that –
Kevonte Henry?
Yeah, they made a point to go after that guy.
How could those guys leave school? Like, are they just not playing football anymore?
Are they at OU? Are they taking OU classes? I have no idea. Like what the heck they're doing.
That's insane to me that so many of these guys entered the portal and they literally haven't enrolled anywhere. Like, are they just not going to school?
I guess they're just thinking like, well, when spring football is over, there'll be new spots open up, and I'll just make the decision then. So they're probably here going to school.
You hope they are. You hope they didn't just pack up their bags and leave and not have that type of thought.
Well, I can find Alton Tarber in the OU people search. I cannot find Kevonte Henry currently. So I don't know if that means anything or not, but that's an interesting side note. But yeah, guys, I mean, like you said, I mean, there's a million reasons. Jordan Mukes at Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian's got a good track record of developing guys. Obviously out there right now is Julian Wilson, so there's some connection to the state and some interest. So I thought a lot of these. I don't think Arizona State's a bad landing spot for Clayton Smith. I think that is interesting, but like some of these guys, I mean, Bryson Washington. Remember how big that was when OU landed him. There was the whole story of, I believe the whole staff was at a Rangers game.
Yes, they were. Yep.
And when they found out, and there was this huge celebration, I think they'd rented out some luxury box, and it was a big deal. And several years later, he's at New Mexico. Like, I mean, it just, there's a lot of things that surprise you guys. One of the things you guys were talking about at receiver. Looking at Theo Weese's situation, do you think that he just had to cleanse his palate? Like, I've done it long enough. I can't, because you can't tell me that's a better situation. Their quarterback situation is shakier. That's not a great program. And Oklahoma needs help at receiver. Theo's a kid I've known forever. So I wish him nothing but the best, but it just seems like a strange choice.
You do have to remember how Brent phrased that. He left because he wanted to be a starter. So it almost is like they'd already decided Theo wasn't a starter.
From everything that I've been told through his injuries, he's lost so much speed. He wasn't going to win a starting job at Oklahoma. Like, he's no longer the athlete that he once was when he came in because of all the injuries.
Fair enough.
And maybe he felt like Missouri was a little step down. Their roster wasn't, other than having, the Luther kid. I mean, what's his last name? Burden. Like, not a huge roster. I mean, I think he felt like he could go in there and make an impact. And I'm sure LaDainian probably helped him with that.
Guys, and
by the way, good for him getting that promotion before he even really took a D1. I mean, we were wondering, like, was he going to stay at Oklahoma? And then he gets the Western Kentucky job, and now he's already jumped to a better job.
That's South Florida.
Yeah.
Yep.
So congrats to him.
I'll be shocked if he doesn't climb pretty fast. Like, I haven't heard any, like, recruit, coach, everybody raves about the person he is. Like, I think he will do very well. But guys, one of the interesting guys, I don't think we've talked about him, Walter Rouse, his comments about how, like, he was like, I'm going pro after this season regardless.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's really honest. Like, he could have kind of been like, I got hurt and it just changed. I realized I shouldn't do it. Like, he was very honest. Like, he had to really reflect on where he was, what he wanted from his career. And I think it's a mixture of, I wasn't going to get drafted where I wanted to get drafted. And secondarily, my tape wasn't what I wanted it to be. And he talked about some bad habits that he developed. And I thought that was pretty interesting as a guy who had watched his Stanford tape and thought, hey, this guy isn't, people thinking he's just going to come in and you won't miss a beat from Anton Harrison. I didn't see that on tape, but now you kind of wonder, like, maybe there's more there than I thought there was.
Luck of the draw there, where I just got an 8-minute one-on-one with Rouse. I don't know how that worked out. There's so many.
They hit him over in the back corner.
They did hit him in the back corner. But I was like, wow, all right.
They hit him and PJ out of
PJ was hitting too.
Yep.
Here's the question I have coming out of that media day.
Is it real quick on Rouse? Is it a huge thing that he's not going to be able to go through spring?
No.
No. You just
for somebody with
like,
that much experience, he's going to be
too
fine.
much
Aaron Parks, Caden Green, use it. This is your time.
That's good.
It's a bigger.
It's a good point, Bob. It's almost a nice break in some ways for OU. They get to get a real look at some of these other guys.
Sure.
It's a bigger deal. Like Eric McCarty can't go through spring to me than that. I mean, he's recovering from his ligament. Was it ACL?
Yeah, and he's like July or August. So yeah, he's definitely.
And he was not a big guy. I mean, like he needs that weight room time. So the development part of it, it's going to take. I'm
with as many
looking
guys
at a red
as they have
shirt
at safety, though, I think that he probably was going to go into a red shirt anyways, wasn't he?
It felt
I think Carey meant a bigger deal for him.
Oh, just
than,
being able to get out there.
Yeah. Not that McCarty's like a change of the plan.
Sure.
Because, I mean, guys, again, they keep talking about all this depth at Cheetah and stuff. And, I mean, like, guys, you look at that secondary, including Cheetah, there's a lot of talent there. It's got to all get ironed out and got to figure out where it's going to be. But there's a lot to like there on paper.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to me, like Peyton Bowen, like how he comes along, because, I mean, Billy Bowen played as a freshman, but when he got bigger through that first offseason, that's when he really started making a bigger impact. And I think Bowen's got to go through the same thing.
Yeah, I thought
he's just a skinny kid.
Venables, he's not that skinny. I mean, he's not massive by any means.
Yeah, but for a defensive back in Division I, he's not there yet. I mean,
I'd take him over Justin Broyles yesterday. I'd take Peyton Bowen right now. I thought it was notable that, what Venables said about how he understands.
He knows schemes.
Schemes very well is basically what he said. And that kind of translates to me that he's ready from day one.
What it did to me is it was like, man, I wish you were here when Buki was here, because they said all the same stuff about him.
Well,
that's coach to you.
I thought it was interesting because there's two sides of that coin, because part of it is exactly what you guys are talking about. Like, well, okay, he is so smart and he is so savvy, but when I saw him in Orlando, obviously guys like Eddie, Bob, we've all seen him playing for Geyer, but seeing him in Orlando amongst other guys, if you had told me, oh, you had a 5-star DB there, I would have told you it was Jacoby Johnson, because he's the one that you're like, dang, that looks like a guy. Peyton Bowen looks a lot like a lot of DBs that OU has brought in through the years, where like once they got amongst the Alabama and Ohio State kids, you're like, that's not as impressive as I remembered it on the fields of Kansas or Oklahoma or wherever it may be. But at the same time, I've watched that kid play and I know he's freaking good. Like, and it really meshes with what Brent was talking about, where almost like his ability to react and read makes him faster, makes him more impressive. Like, he can do things faster in his head than some other young guys can. And then as he gets experience and learns from these veterans, it should only exponentially grow. So he's one of those kids, like, I feel like they're going to do all they can to get him as many reps as they can, because kind of like what Carey was talking about, heading into that sophomore year when he has a full, year under his belt, couple of summers with Schmitty, he's going to look like a different kid, and then all the other stuff, comes into play as well.
We talked a lot about evaluation. You know who's great evaluators? Prime Shrimp. They know what flavors are, and they make some great shrimp. It's really easy for you to cook. You just put it in boiling water, less than 10 minutes. You've got a gourmet meal sitting right in front of you with premium shrimp, cooking bag convenience, exceptional shrimp dishes. They've got the garlic herb butter shrimp, signature Cajun seasoned shrimp, Louisiana boil Cajun, New Orleans style barbecue, French Quarter Alfredo. I mean, the hits just go on and on with these guys. And if you go to primeshrimp.com, it's PRIME shrimp.com, and place your order for at least 5 packs or more, you'll get 25% off your entire order using the promo code SoonerScoop. Primeshrimp.com, no mess, no fuss, just easy restaurant quality dinner for you in 10 minutes or less. And they've got the new simpler packaging with just one, so you can get more flavors for cheaper. So either $10.99 or $9.99. Primeshrimp.com. Go check them out. Use that promo code SoonerScoop. Get 25% off of any 5 orders or more. So great evaluators of flavor, if you will. So let's wrap that up. I mean, as far as the media day that we had, I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit about Brent kind of talking about his roster depletion and rebuilding it and everything like that. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you? I guess, I asked him there at the end about why'd you do this, and basically saying that these guys were all going to be needed, so he wanted to kind of put them through the fire of dealing with the media.
And he wants the fans to get to know him.
Yeah.
These fans are going to be cheering for these guys that maybe even a month ago they didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, just like, talking about Walter Rouse. Like, a lot of people don't know, he's from Stanford and he's not going to go through spring because he had torn labrum that he had to have surgery on. And it is weird because it's like this roster changes so quickly. If you're just a casual fan, you're just like, who the hell are these guys?
Exactly. I mean, and that's sort of what he mentioned. It's just, these are guys that we're going to be counting on. And probably maybe some name, image, likeness incentives there too to get their stories out there, let people know
and really,
who these guys are.
To me, it's not so much about the transfers; it's about the true freshmen. And those guys were all ready to go. And like we talked about earlier, all came off as really high character guys. Like their recruiting, I don't want to speak in absolutes because that's kind of leaves yourself open to if something happens, and something always happens. But I don't think we're going to have a 3-person robbery anytime soon with this group that we talked to.
And that's disappointing.
That's your checklist. That's
Eddie's
your
national championship.
Man.
The odds just went down from the Eddie House of Gambling.
No, I felt very confident that like you walk out of there and it's like there is a certain checklist that these guys are, obviously bringing with them to Norman.
There's a little characters there.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I guess that's not necessarily surprising, and I think that we kind of find ourselves saying this every year about those guys, and then they go do something stupid. But it does feel like, that they're trying to instill a little bit of a new culture down there.
And I will say this, I did get the feeling talking to Jackson Arnold, like, he's not here to just take Dylan Gabriel's job. Like, he knows Dylan Gabriel's the quarterback. I mean, Dylan's been active. He was his host when he came in on his official visit. They've known each other. They've gotten to know each other. Like, he's going to come in and compete, and if Dylan Gabriel slips up, he's more than willing to take that job. But I don't think he's here and going to be massively disappointed if he's not the starter at the end of spring. I mean, he knows this is a process.
He needs to be the backup, though. He needs to be better than Bevel. And some would say that's already happened, but that needs to be
just
clear.
Showing up, that's already happened. That's 99% of our listening audience.
He showed up the first day of class, and he became the second best quarterback.
The 1% that do not believe that are all somehow related to Davis Bevel.
It's one of those things like in recruiting, and I always do this. I'm constantly typing, like, I don't mean like typing on my computer, but like body typing. Like, I'm looking at guys and like, does he fit? Does he not fit? Like, this guy's a great player, but he's not what OU usually recruits. And for so long, you knew what that was. Like, that was one of the things I did love about Alex Grinch. I knew right away, like, that guy's not a guy I have to worry about because he does not fit their measurables. And they, we all know they didn't care past that point. With Venables, there's some of that for sure, but they're obviously we've seen more flexibility. The Lewis Carters, the Eric McCartys, like they're willing to mix and match a little bit if they think a guy's a good player. But what it does seem like they're not that flexible about is clearly a character type. Because as I was going to this camp that we've alluded to a couple of times, I was listening to all the various interviews that I hadn't had a chance to hear yet. And I mean, you're just like, dang, that guy, like, okay, he gets it. Like, and I mean, it's not like, it's not the well-spoken, articulate thing. It's the maturity. Even amongst the freshmen, you were like, they would say things and you're like, wow, that dude gets it. Like, there's every reason on earth for Jackson Arnold to come in and be like, I'm coming to try to take a job. Like, and I wouldn't even have a problem with him saying that. I like a little brash. But at the same time, like, I know my situation here. I want to come in. I want to make Dylan Gabriel work for it. But I understand that in all likelihood, I'm going to be the number 2 guy this year. And it just little things like that. You're like, there's a mindset that you can tell is very important when this staff goes through the evaluation process.
Well, you mentioned Josh going to camps and stuff. Tell us kind of what that was all about and what you got out of it. I know there's a lot of younger guys that you got to see for the first time.
Yeah, and that was, I kind of knew it would be. It's a camp that is very geared toward kind of 2025, 2026 type guys. And I saw several of those guys. A couple of, for our, I know we have a lot of Oklahoma high school fans that listen. A guy named Cash Robertson, young defensive lineman from Jinx that I know Jinx is very excited about 6'3", 6'4", 250, really moves around well. Would have played a lot last year for Jinx, but had an injury. I actually was talking to him during camp, and he got hurt playing lacrosse. So that kind of gives you an idea of the athlete you're talking about, like 6'4", 245, 250, and, took an injury, out there running around like crazy like they do in lacrosse. So I was impressed with him. Probably the guy, though, that was most notable to me and that I think is clearly going to be a focal point of OU's efforts is Michael Fasusi, a 2025 offensive lineman from Louisville in Texas. OU offered him earlier in the spring. He was my brain cramp of the camp because I was like, man, I can't believe OU's not all over this guy. They'd offered him about 2 weeks before, and I just forgot about it. And I just totally forgot. Would have gotten a full interview with him, but we've spoken since then. He's planning to be at Oklahoma in the next, next month. I think maybe March 25th is what he's looking at. But clearly very impressed with Oklahoma early on. Big athletic guy, really long, hasn't played a lot of football, and kind of one of those guys that I like a lot, where he is about 6'5" and probably 265 right now, and he's just going to keep filling out. He's a Nigerian-born guy, played a lot of soccer, so his feet are very good. But yeah, he was the guy that I came out of that camp and thinking, if there's a first-round draft pick here, this might be the guy. Like he really has a ton of upside. But there were several. I went to a secondary camp so I could see Bryant Westco later in the day. The big receiver, really think that one may come down to TCU and OU. But it's not like it's down to that list, but that's kind of what it's shaping up as right now. And again, I saw probably through the course of the day 7-8 OU offers. So it was a really productive day getting around Dallas.
The gallery has no questions, I guess, for you.
They're so young. It's hard. Yeah.
No.
Bob is creeped out by this discussion.
Now, one guy I will say, a 2024 guy, actually a couple in-state guys. Brody Duffel, the big offensive lineman from Bixby, was there. So was Harrison Utley from Norman North. Harrison literally, the first thing he did was run the 40, and I see him, and he's running right at me, and about 5 yards shy of the 40, he pulls up and he pulled his hamstring. So didn't get to really see him go, but I like Harrison a lot.
Now, is he Chase Utley's brother?
No, but he actually is a baseball player. And I kind of asked him because Harrison's 6'4", 6'5", and about 265. He's a big dude. And I was like, what do you play, man? He goes, first base. I don't have to move around a lot there. I just hit home runs and it's fine. I'm like, I love it.
There was an Utley that was a football player, wasn't there? Not too long ago? A walk-on?
Yules.
Jackson
Yules. Yeah, he's Baker's roommate.
Well, I know Jackson Yules, but last name Utley, I thought. I thought OU has had an Utley in the program before.
I'm not sure.
Not that I remember. I can't. Not recently, at least.
Maybe I'm so f***ing old. It was his dad. Oh, Jesus.
I have no idea. No, I don't know. I can't think of you. Utley?
Mm-hmm.
I knew a Clint Utley. Shout out. Stole a couple golf carts back in his day. But no, I don't know.
Just the Lions lineman started the thumbs up.
Oh, boy. What was that Utley's name? Mike Utley, yeah. I'm sure someone will tell us in the comments of the pod thread when we get there.
You fucking idiots. How did you not know that?
God. They are aggressive, but usually not that aggressive. Bob, I'm not going to give you a lot of time for this. I'm just going to tell you right now. But I guess we should start with Bijan Cortez. I mean,
yeah.
The tweet, Eddie and I were sitting in here, what was that, about 3 hours before the
game?
About
2 hours, about 6 o'clock.
Okay. 6 o'clock, yeah.
So he announces he's taking a leave from the team for personal reasons, and then the Sooners go out and look lethargic against Texas Tech again last night. I thought they were making progress coming out of that Texas game.
They really were. You had Kansas State. You had a great showing in Austin, but that was another clunker. And it's just when Grant Sherfield can't score, it seems like the rest of the team just struggles to try to pick up the slack for him. They need him to be good first, and then maybe they can be good too. But when Grant doesn't have it, you see the rest of the team really doesn't either. We asked Jalen Hill about Bijan. So the team found out Monday, so it wasn't like a big shock Tuesday night. And then I just wanted to gauge Porter's reaction, mannerisms when asked about it, and that felt genuine about the love and support, about he's going to be welcomed back with open arms. He's a big part of the program, and I think that goes. I don't see Porter running people off. I know because I'm starting to speculate. Okay, who's coming back?
Getting processed.
Exactly. Who's going to leave of their own accord? Who's going to get pushed out? And I don't think Porter is going to be that type of guy that opens the door for Bijan to walk on out. I think he wants to keep him. He wants his team to grow old together. I don't know if that's realistic in this day and age of college basketball, but that's something he's striving for. So I think we'll just kind of monitor what happens with Bijan. Does it turn out to be the rest of the season? Does it go even beyond this season? But it's clear he's got the support from teammates, coaches, and now it's just all about him trying to get right.
As for the Sooners, are we can just declare the season it's over?
Yes, because I was still like, well, wait a minute. If they go 6-12 and that has a win in Ames or a win in Austin, you got enough quad one wins to make that argument. No, you're 13-15. You're just gonna have to make the run of all runs in Kansas City in a couple weeks, and there's a legit argument to be made that they will not win another game rest of the season.
3-15. That's what they would be in Big 12 play.
Yeah.
3-15.
And that's what the Texas Tech game was, such a swing game.
It's one of the worst conference seasons in the history of OU basketball.
They both would have been 4-11, but OU would have swept Tech, so they would have had that leg up for the number 9 seed. But now it's 5-10 versus 3-12, so you can go ahead and figure out Sooners will be the 10 seed.
The thing that's to me the biggest red flag with this team is that every time they've been put in a moment, especially at home, where they've needed a must-win, it's been just so deflating.
They're 8-7 at home.
They're 8-7 at home. It has not been pretty. The last 5 minutes, if it's a 1 or 2 possession game, the energy in the arena says we know it's not going to be a win.
I think they know that it's not going to be a win. By the way, just from a historical marker, the last time that OU won 3 or fewer conference games in a season was 1968-69.
Oh, shit.
The last time that OU football and OU basketball both finished under 500 was, I believe, 1965. So it's been it's a little bit of surprise that neither of these teams have killed me. It's surprising that I haven't had
we show up every day
any type
for
of
media.
heart attack.
Well, you've lost a lot of weight, so you did the perfect.
I'm
perfect time to get in shape.
Sure.
I'm trying to think
Perfect
what that
season for it.
It's embarrassing.
I'm trying to think what the year after Buddy, before Trey, when Jordan Woodard was a senior, that was a grind too. But they had more than 3 wins in conference.
Yeah. And even the 10-11 team, I think that was Capel's last year with like Nick Thompson and Carl Blair and some of those names. We were going over the roster this morning. It's like when you start going over the roster from that team or even from the 14 team, I think it was, it's like, I don't know. Those other teams might have had more talent than this team does. They have to get better basketball players.
I think
that they try hard. They're not like they didn't go out there and quit. I think they worked their ass off. They're just not very good basketball players.
And when some of those guys don't make shots, it materializes in other ways where they don't do the other things necessary. It's funny. They said, "Oh, we did so good except for this, and this." That's a big this, and this. Defensive breakdowns, not blocking out. When you're not doing that in the final 5 minutes, I don't care how clean you're trying to play the first 35. If you're just have, error here or there, that's a big one where other teams aren't making them.
It's just so far from acceptable that, like, the clock's ticking. They have to go get better basketball players, particularly in the front court. And, if you come out in – I don't even know when that the clock would start or the clock would end for transfer portal stuff going into the summer. But if you come out of that without a big man,
it's over.
I'll be ready to fire him right then.
I mean, it will be. That's your number one. You've got Caden Cooper. You've got Tega. You've got Lowe's.
They have a good backcourt returning.
Your backcourt's going to be just fine. You just need to hone in on any big that is going to be really worth the while. And you need to shoot hard for it. You can't just like, we're not going to get this guy, so let's look at these plan B and plan C guys and see if this will work out.
Yeah.
You need to get some immediate difference makers.
You also need to go get a assistant coach because like that was kind of glossed over at the beginning of the season when you lose an assistant 2 weeks before opening tip. Like
that's what we should have known, right?
Incredible.
Yeah, Matt Brady and Sam Houston State. We all should have known.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like it's time to start having serious conversations about Porter Moser, and if we already haven't, just as far as like what that longevity is going to be.
We're just gonna we'll find out with what happens with the portal. If they don't lose a lot of those freshmen and sophomore, then they're doing something right. But if all of a sudden you see Tega hit or someone like Los or I mean, we know CJ Nolan's going to hit. But outside of that, like if you start seeing any of those other younger guys, like wait a minute, they're not seeing the vision. They're telling us flat out this is not working, and I'm getting out now.
And I'm still not done with like somebody like you asked about Luke Northweather this week. Who knows what that's going to look like when he actually gets out onto the court, but. They have to make steps over the next couple months that at least gives you a little bit of hope that this thing's going to be better. Because if you look up and they're 3-12 again or whatever, 365 days from now, I'll be ready to help him move.
You've got 3.
Like, they can fire him during the middle of the season for all I care.
3 question marks, and I don't know which way they're going to go between Sherfield, Joe Bamasil, and Jalen Hill. Do they stay? Do they go? In the makeup of that team changes drastically based on all 3 and what those guys choose.
I'm probably ready to not see another Groves in a OU basketball uniform.
I don't think
I get
will.
anger when Jacob's on the floor now.
I mean, Porter mentions times I'm getting how hard he's working, and I know when we showed up Monday, Jacob Groves was getting up shots, but it's not translating. It's not working.
He's not even hitting the rim.
Yeah, for wide open threes. He's going 9 minutes at his size without a rebound. That's not going to work. That can't happen.
Josh, that therapy session was brought to you by Dead Soxy. DeadSoxy.com. They will calm you down when you put them on your feet. I promise you. And we need to get a couple pairs for Eddie and Bob because that was a therapy session unlike any other. Go check them out, DeadSoxy.com. They've got great sales going on. And guess what? You use the promo code SCOOP. You still get 20% off, 25% off, even the sale items. So load up that cart knowing you're going to get 25% off using that promo code SCOOP. They've even got the OU themed socks, or I shouldn't say the Crimson and Cream themed socks. Don't want to get them another cease and desist like we got. So, yeah, go check them out, deadsoxy.com. Great friends of the program and even better socks. So go check them out. And remember, as always, stay soxy. Okay, we have a first loss from softball.
Yes.
Eddie and I have been denied doing a fantastic NIL program for the softball team, by the way. I did get a response the other day, Eddie.
I don't care.
We have this great T-shirt idea, and this is kind of like where NIL is stupid because it has so much red tape behind it. Like, we want to do like a T-shirt that is a slogan for softball, which we know people are going to buy, but we've been told like we can't give that money to the players because it's not name, image, likeness. So
that's fine. We'll keep all the money.
Well, that's what we said. It's like we'll keep like. So we're probably going to do it anyway, and then just put that money like in an NIL funnel that we have to figure out how to legally get to them. I don't know. It's stupid. Like, just let people sign up for a T-shirt.
I'd rather just sell it and keep all the money now.
Could we have the slogan and like their name and jersey on the back? Like people could pick their favorite players.
Dumb though. I mean, it
is. It's awful, but it's like the best thing I can think of to make it work.
I mean, make a mainstream product and sell as many as you can, and then give that money to the softball players. That's all we're saying. Like, All right. So sorry, we had some interruptions during the pod. We've got a lot of contractors and stuff coming through, and by the way, I'm sure everyone is just fired up to know that the epoxy people have been hired. So I don't want to scare you, Josh, but it is very much like my fence got knocked down last week. So it's like everything else. They tell you something and then they come and they're like, oh, well, this is a problem too, and this is a problem too. So my fence went from 1,500 to 2,200 this morning. Mm-hmm. The epoxy guy was like, oh, this is 2,600 for 400 square feet. And he's like, oh, we got to do this. We got to do this. It's 4,000 now. So
that I told you, I don't think I've ever talked about this on Paul. My brother is a general contractor, and I had called, you and I talked, and I was like, well, let me give him a call. And he was, a lot of the things you've mentioned, like he was like, okay, you got to see if there's tax stripping. You got to go over that. Like if you guys want to level it out, it's going to be different. And I was like, okay. So he had actually told, he was like, if you want me to get in touch with Carrie, let me have his number and I'll give him a call. But you were already down the road. So like, it's fine. But
you don't think we're getting hosed?
No. He was telling me that it was not going to be insubstantial. So even at a brother discount price.
We just need our main guys that work with us. They're just like, yes, I do that for $2. I mean, like, Tereso is the best, man. He does everything, and it's just the price he says.
I'm glad you added a name in there, because otherwise that was going to be our is it racist?
Is it racist?
That was going to be bad.
Eddie has seen it. He's like, good. It's like those things. It's like those. There's that thing on TikTok and like Instagram Reels where the guy like it's like a work site disaster. He's like, Mr. George, the new guy you hired, he's no good. And it's a guy like driving a truck off of a bridge or something. That's what it's just. I love it. It's fantastic. Spending money. It's great. But I mean, we are really close. If you're curious on the offices, we've got. It looks good. It's a mess right now because we got 2 rooms cleared out for the epoxy, but we're very close to having our studios back. Very, very. I would say definitely in the next 2 weeks we'll be up and running.
And that means we're not far from you guys getting to see all of our smiling faces when we record these things.
They're gonna say, "Turn it off."
Seriously,
go back to just audio. So yeah, I'm prepared for that. Just so you know, I've been preparing myself. All right, baseball. Sooners dropped the first series, but they've been playing a lot of ball. Big win, big late win over Air Force the other night, and we got who they got. They got another game today, right?
Yeah, Abilene. Yeah. Abilene Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, down in Arlington. I mean, it is what it is.
You said that it was going to be a slow start till they get the pitching figured out.
It's going to be about a month and a half before you really figure out like who's going to be pitching, and even the guys that I think that they're going to be counting on towards the end of the year, whether it be a Griffin Miller or a Colton Sunloff or Blake Bales. There's a lot of guys that they don't have right now. It's going to be predominant on like who comes out of the bullpen because the starting pitching is good. It's going to be a work in progress. Like, and Skip has talked about it time and time again. You're either going to accept it or you're just not listening. Like, they're going to have to develop guys.
The closer that came in the first win of the series, he looked good. Did he come back out the other two nights?
Yeah, he gave a 3-run homer on Sunday.
Okay, so wasn't so good there.
But I mean, he's still going to be good. Aaron Calhoun, he's a sophomore though.
I like him.
He's very very young.
A lot of movement on his ball. Throws in the 90s. I mean, looks like he has a few different pitches.
He had a really good run up at the Cape this past summer. So I mean, the talent is there. It's just going to take some time for some of these guys to come through. I mean, some of the and offensively they didn't hit the ball over the weekend very well against Cal Baptist. The two guys that come out of the weekend are the two newcomers, Anthony McKenzie and Dakota Harris. Both had really good weekends at the plate. Slow start for Jackson Nicholas, slow start for John Spikerman, slow start for Kendall Pettis. That stuff's going to come together. I don't think they're too worried about that offensively. Mason Strong still coming back from thumb injury. He's going to need to push Easton Carmichael at the catcher a little bit. So, it'll be kind of interesting to see how long it takes for some of these guys to come together, but they should be fine. I'm not just incredibly worried, even after the Cal Baptist loss.
Yeah, you kind of snapped at me there.
I was out of the zone.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody's worried. I mean, it's just watch some baseball, see them get better.
Like to sit around and say that like you should expect this team to go to Omaha or anything like that, it's far from that.
Yeah.
Big 12 is going to be really, really good again. And it's college baseball. I mean, you look up last night, and I think there was 5 top 12 teams that all got beat. Like Lamar went and beat Texas A&M. Vanderbilt got beat yesterday by Central Arkansas. Like it's weird.
Well, and then softball, they were that was in Waco, right?
It was in Waco, yes.
And they lose them 4-3, first loss of the year. But I gotta think Patty kind of smiles at that a little bit. Like, yes, we went undefeated. And,
you don't have to worry about being 40, 50-0 and having that hang over your head. Now it's out of the way.
Yeah, it became
early.
such a burden last year.
It did, and so now you just. Hey, you got to figure it out now. The bats have got to start coming around and stop looking as confused as they've been in the first couple weekends. But, boy, they've got a great bounce-back shot this weekend.
The Mary Nutter Collegiate Classic, what a name that is.
This is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Like, they have
Mary
this every
Nutter?
year. I think this is the one that you saw all of the scenes last year, wasn't it, where everybody thought Jossie was going to break the record out there, and there was – 8,000 people at those games. But yeah.
Cal State, Fullerton, Texas A&M, Utah, Loyola Marymount, and UCLA.
UCLA is the big one, right?
Yeah, the Aggies are borderline top 25, depending on what poll you look at. But on Sunday, 11:30, 1 versus 2, with the 1 now being the Bruins. That's how you just erase what happened against Baylor.
And that's 5 games in 3 days? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, going to get to play a lot of softball. That'd be cool. And that will be on Flow Softball.
Flow Softball, unfortunately. Sorry, people.
Or locally, you can listen either on the franchise.
Always listen on the franchise.
1 or 2. What is 2? Oh, that's AM. Okay.
Baseball's on ESPN Plus on Wednesday, and then I'm pretty sure the Rider stuff. It'll be hit and miss this weekend, though. I don't think the weather's supposed to be very good around here. So I think the high is 40 on Friday, and then it's supposed to rain all weekend. So I don't know. They might be flying out those guys from New Jersey. I think Riders in Lawrenceville, New Jersey or something.
Oh, yeah. They're getting killed.
They might be
today.
Oh, New Jersey is?
Yeah.
All
Minneapolis,
everything north,
I knew.
South Dakota's getting murdered. And
better them than us.
Yes. I'd much prefer that. All right. Anything else that you guys wanted to touch on before we get out of here today?
No, I don't think so.
Eddie hates plumbers. I learned that from the show today.
Why?
You seem very annoyed by the plumber.
Oh, no, I wasn't. No, they do a service that we have to have. Alabama stuff
how
was
is the
interesting.
apartment, by the way?
I don't want to talk about it.
There we go. There you go.
So it was hopeful yesterday. Now
basically
it's
ruining my life.
Well, don't pay for rent again.
I might not.
That has been like one of the craziest things I've ever seen anybody go through. What you're going through in the apartment.
It's insane.
Eddie, I feel like you don't talk, like you like to say things don't bother you. You're like, I don't have a problem with the plumber, when clearly it's a personal thing. It's hitting close to home.
The plumber's not the issue.
The plumber's work or lack of work.
I just want you to know this is a safe space. You can talk about these.
No,
things.
they're
let people
I think
know.
it's contractors down there or up in Oklahoma City. I don't even know what they're doing.
So
I'm just sick of living in squalor.
You hate my brother, is what you're saying.
No,
okay.
I'm just sick of living in the situation that I am.
Oh, I don't blame you at all. I'm with Carrie. Don't pay rent.
Don't pay rent.
Done.
No way.
There's like any court of law would back you.
Yep. You just have to know, is it worth the hassle to you to go through the process?
That's true.
No, I want every person that's like associated with this to die.
Okay, the court of law is not going to back you on that.
That's not going to work.
He didn't even take his car being towed this hard. I mean,
it's been 2 months.
That was taken care of in a day, and you're only out a couple $100. This has been 2 months.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
At Christmas, you took it so well when it happened.
Yeah, because I thought it was going to get fixed
done
and
by
like
the time
you know,
get back.
Maybe
feasible.
by the time we got back from Orlando or something.
Yep.
And now it's like I'm so sick of just having to go home and sit in my room. There's like it's ridiculous.
I feel like
today might be a day of meltdown. I might go up there and just absolutely lose my mind.
It's that carryover from basketball because I'm the same way. I'm a little on edge.
Yeah, I think my dad said it best last night when I called him on the way back home to Oklahoma City last night. He's like, "Well,
you still up?"
Oh yeah. Well, at least you don't have to watch this shit on the midweek anymore. I was like, "Yeah, that's true."
By the way, not from a journalist perspective, although it's hard not to have it. But what did you guys think about the? I don't know, demand's the right words, but Chris Del Conte 230 Texas.
I hate it.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
I hate it.
Is it good for the fans though?
It's somewhere split. Like I think anywhere that you're going to have to be getting, Ubers or whatever out at the state fair at 7, 8, 9
really
o'clock
late at night.
It's still going to be a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Like the fair is not the easiest place in the world to get to leave,
and it's not a good place.
There's nothing
Fair Park
great
is a
about
bad
it.
area.
Nope.
Yeah.
So I hate it just for the aspect of I think everybody's kind of gotten in this groove where the 11 a.m. game there's a uniqueness to it. There's something kind of special about it, and being able to get done and have a nice little evening in Dallas is always kind of fun for me. But
yeah, and that's what I'm the same way. As a fan, like we all went to it as a fan, and Eddie, you and I probably as kids almost, were going to the state fair and going to OU Texas, and we had a tradition, and that was a great part of my life. And I ran that race, and then I got into the media, and then I developed media traditions. I mean, which is went and met my best friend and his family as soon as all the stories were written and the radio was done, and we go to Del Frisco, and that was a yearly thing. And then his parents passed away, a few years ago, and we haven't been doing that. So, like, that race has now been run because he's not even going to OU Texas anymore because he's got kids that are growing up, and they're not really into OU football. But, like, I think at 2:30, people will start to develop new traditions. And if it just stays at 2:30, it's not going to be the same as it was when you had 11 o'clock games, but you're going to figure things out, and it's going to become a staple of your life every year.
2:30 kickoff sucks.
It lets you party more on Friday night. Of course, if you're young, it doesn't matter. 11 o'clock, you survive and you just advance.
Anyway. That's part of the tradition.
Right.
Well, it weeds out those people, like, because only the strong can survive with 11 a.m. kickoffs. Like, sure. You're going to go home a little earlier, probably when you damn well should because you got too old. I
want to know, I want someone to contact us. We don't do this enough. Our Twitter page, @SoonerScoop, Carrie A. Murdoch, Eddie Ratto. Is it Eddie, just Eddie Ratto?
Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, EDDIE _ Ratto.
And B. P. Prisbillo?
B. Prisbillo.
Okay, that's your email, has the extra P.
Yep.
Mr. Paul. And then Josh, you changed it, right? At Josh McQuiston, or is it underscore?
Josh_Scoop.
It's just Josh_Scoop.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, reach out. But here's my question for anyone out there. Have you been arrested at West End and made kickoff the next day for 11 a.m.? Is that possible?
I think most people that probably would have gotten arrested on the West End are probably more of the Facebook community.
Not in a certain part of life. Like West End used to be the only place.
West End was the exactly.
It was never a thing in my life.
See, you were just it was before your time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But like during our time, like Josh and I's probably, like it was, and Bob apparently too, it was the place to be. Everybody went down there, and they literally just had paddy wagons parked right in the alley, and everyone that was getting into fights or was unruly, they would just grab them. They'd put them in the plastic handcuffs because they didn't have enough metal handcuffs, so they'd put the plastic cuffs on you and just throw you in the paddy wagon. And when it got full, they'd just take everyone to the police station. And I want to know, does any of those people actually make it to the game the next day? Has that ever happened to you? Hit any of us up?
I had
on
a couple
Twitter?
of fraternity brothers got arrested, and they, I think, made it over there by halftime.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I nearly got arrested one time, but I didn't get arrested. I got home, but that was before that Arkansas Cotton Bowl. That was also, I think that was a 10 a.m.
That was a 10 a.m. game on New Year's Day.
Yes.
It was cold as
It was
hell.
cold.
Oh my God, that was
Sounds awful.
day.
I wouldn't say I've been close to being arrested, but I have got the urination in public ticket in Dallas.
I should have. I peed under the bridge just there north of downtown once upon a time because we got stuck in traffic on the way to OU, Texas.
I'm just trying to think. The only time I've ever been close to being arrested was in Oklahoma City in cahoots. That's another story for another day. So yeah, the 2:30 thing. I know a lot of people are going to have problems with it, but I think everyone will adjust eventually. I just will not be wearing nice watches to the Cotton Bowl anymore.
Hey, I know we're trying to wrap up, but something we, like almost the second we stopped recording last week, we realized we didn't talk at all about the SEC scheduling stuff.
Right.
Should we go into that a little bit? Do we want to save that? Like, what do we want to
Let's not, and then just make it an anti-cliffhanger.
Okay.
No,
great,
you
good.
open the door. We have to walk through it. You can't.
Okay, great.
I know you're just usually yell talking as a guest on radio, but that's not how radio works, pal.
I mean, we can just make it. Everybody just going to be foaming at the mouth for next week, and then we spend like 2 minutes on it. It's almost a cruel joke.
That would be exactly how it would get. No, but I mean, to be honest, I don't give a damn about the scheduling. I mean, what's going to happen is going to happen. Like, I'm going to want to look at it and say, okay, we're going here and there and there, and oh God, that's going to cost more than that. And it's I just. Whether you're in a pod with, I think it'd be stupid if OU is stuck in a pod with Missouri because they're not rivals. I mean, we talked about.
Why do people keep trying to make that a thing?
I don't know.
It's all the
Drives me
people that
crazy.
really liked watching OU basketball play Missouri basketball when Billy Tubbs and Norm Stewart were coaches.
Another thing that's never been something in my lifetime.
People that remember the name Derek Chivas think it's a rival.
Ugh.
I mean, for football,
John Sullivan.
2007
John
is the
Sullivan?
only year that stands out to me for OU Missouri.
The color guy?
No, I'm thinking
He was a point guard for Missouri, right? John Sullivan?
That's an old guy. Yeah, I'm thinking who was the irritant white? There were two back to back.
There was Sutherland.
John Sutherland.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it John Sutherland?
No, I don't think
He was like one of the first.
Derek. It was
Derek Sutherland.
Yeah.
He was like the first guy
And
that wore
Travis
like
Graham.
the cutoff T-shirt or whatever.
Yeah, he was
underneath
evil.
his jersey.
And then
Little white tee.
there was a tall guy named Derek something after him.
Was it Derek Grimm?
Derek Grimm. It was Derek Grimm.
There you go. Nice
But
pull.
the great thing is, like, they hated Eduardo Nahara. The Antlers hated Nahara so much. Like, and Nahara did do one of when someone was had a free layup and he swiped the back of their head and hit him, and their crowd just went nuts. And I don't even think they called a foul on it. Like, missed it or something. I mean, there were some great angry games between Missouri and OU over the year, but really the only rivalry was back in the Derek Chivas type days. Who was the guy that wore the Band-Aid over his eye? Was that Derek Chivas that Nelly, he wore a Band-Aid because of that guy?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
I don't remember. That's even a little before me, Kerry. I don't remember that one that well. I know the name, but I don't remember it.
It does seem like there's a lot of momentum that Florida is going to be that third opponent for Oklahoma.
I was going to say the same. That's what I'm hearing a lot of, is that it's Florida. Like, it sounds like that. And I keep hearing by like end of March, it'll be public.
Which,
what the schedule's going to be.
If it's going to be Florida, that's okay. Like, right. I don't think I have a problem with it.
I think that's awesome. I'd much rather that than Texas, Missouri, and Arkansas. Like, I mean, that's cool. But, guys, for me, the Arkansas OU, like, if you're going to create a rivalry, that one makes a lot more sense to me than Missouri.
100%. 100%. I'm down for OU, Missouri, or OU, Arkansas being in the same pod.
But I love the idea of a kind of cross, because I know they're not going to have divisions anymore, but it feels like SEC West, SEC East, huge national brands finding a way to play. And, because people are like, well, it's a manufactured rivalry. What the hell else is there going to be? Like, OU has one rival in this conference. A&M is not a rival. Like, people try to build that story too. Like, that's not a thing. Texas is OU's lone existing rival. And I think Texas is the only school that is pretty obvious in who their three schools are going to be. Arkansas, A&M, and OU.
We can shit on A&M, deservedly so, and absolutely warranted. But they did play in the same conference together, and you can't say. I mean, I know that doesn't make OU and Missouri a rival, but it is fun hating on Texas A&M. It just is.
I wouldn't hate that. I'm just saying, like, be honest about what it is. Like, any of these rivalries are going to be manufactured. At least OU and Florida have played in a massive game in recent memory. Like, there's some connection between those schools. A&M and OU, that was, I mean, like, there's a couple good ones in there. Obviously, the 2000 game, and then you had the upset year in, what was that, 03?
77, nothing was that.
02.
Yeah.
So, and then you had the one, later on. But, I mean, by and large, A&M was just another win for OU. Like, I mean, there's no other way to say that. So,
how big are the pods that we're thinking? Are they 4 or are they 6? Are they 8?
I don't think there are going to be pods.
They're not. They keep saying they're not doing pods.
Okay.
It's just going to be 3 random, not random.
It's going to be the 3-6 model where you have the 3
Is it gonna be
teams
9
that you always
games?
play. And I think it'll be 9 games
Instead
in
of
3-6
8.
instead of 7-1.
You've got to think that is part of, like, as the SEC's pushing ESPN to help them get the exit done, the SEC's like, yeah, we want 9 games. Like, we don't want to broadcast that, Alabama versus Akron game. We want Alabama versus South Carolina or whatever it's going to be. So surely they'll push in that direction. But I like that. And what I like about this is I think they're going to focus on matchups rather than, well, let's make it fair. And, if somebody gets a Vanderbilt no, man, like, we're going to a 12-team playoff. You don't, like, if OU loses 2 games in that SEC, they're still going to the playoffs.
Correct.
Like, that's still going to happen. So you don't have to schedule like that and worry about that shit anymore. In a really good year, I think a 9-3 team could get in, like, if in the right situation. I know people will be like, that's crazy, but whatever.
And to this point, if you have a 12-team playoff, you want to have the best strength of schedule possible, because that all will be still taken into advisement.
And talk about if OU can get their shit together and get back on track and just make last year the aberration, talk about a good time to get a hold of Florida. Like, if Florida's going to be your team, Florida ain't the Florida we all grew up with. Like, now they may get there. I think Bill Napier is really good, but they aren't streamlined and all set up to be perfect as they were under Spurrier and Meyer.
What was the Oh, yeah. It was the funny thing about Napier was they had that NIL deal signed by DeSantis, and he showed up at it. And this was on the heels of the worst. Basically, the deal that caused them to push that bill through was not Billy Napier's fault, but Florida's fault. The $13 million deal or whatever it was.
With Rashada.
Jada Rashada or whatever. By the way, Oklahoma's trying to push something through that's interesting.
I missed this.
There's a Senate Bill 840, 820. I can't remember. Don't have it in front of me, but they want to make it to where like the Sooner Club or the Posse can raise NIL funds. Now, doing deals is another thing, but that's what Florida basically did, and that's A&M, the 12th Man Foundation. They're allowing them to do that now. Now, the NCAA still has to kind of sign off on that, I think, but because employees of the university are not supposed to be able to do NIL deals, but that will be something. You talk about the collectives that are going right now. It would not surprise me if that goes through if One Oklahoma just hands everything over to OU. Now, Crimson and Cream is they're really student athlete NIL, which is the company that's behind Crimson and Cream. So it's like out of New Jersey. They're in it to make money. So I don't know that they would just fold. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying they're a business. So I don't think they would just hand it. But I will say this. If this does pass, I doubt OU will ever say another word about any other collective except for the Sooner Club. Like they will not they will not promote anyone or tell you to donate to a collective. It'll all be, if you want to help NIL, send money to Sooner Club Plus or whatever they're going to call it, like A&M's doing.
And that's just smart. Like, I mean, I ranted last week about making middlemen. Oh, if you're going to take the middlemen out, don't give them the avenue. And I don't mean that as a shot to the other NILs. Like, we're streamlining and we get to, because look what happened at Florida, where you get this situation where a guy was trying to help. He was trying to do a good thing, but he just got out over his skis as to where OU says, okay, we're in charge of this from beginning to end.
So we don't have these ridiculous deals that are put in place.
Exactly. Especially with a coaching staff, led by Brent Venables, that has such a clear vision of what they want NIL to mean to their players.
Yeah, it's interesting time and everything's changing, but I know fans will be upset because they're like, we just got this going and everybody signed up, and so now all this has to go away. But it doesn't go away; it's just changing hands. And we all knew that the universities were going to control this stuff eventually, and if that's starting to happen, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying, okay, Crimson Cream is dead or One Oklahoma is dead. It's just, if OU has control of the money, there's really not any point of having those collectives. So we'll keep an eye on it for you. All right, guys, I think that'll do it for this week. We'll be back next week after, more bad basketball. Baseball hopefully gets on track a little bit more. And then softball, we'll see where they go with a big tournament coming up, a big trip coming up, big classic, whatever you want to call it. So, and then recruiting will start heating up again, and that'll be great as well. And hopefully we'll be working our way towards video stuff by the time spring practice starts. I will tell you this. Let's see. We're sitting here the 22nd. When we pod next Wednesday, there will be a major announcement for everyone on March the 1st. Big, future-changing announcement for Sooner Scoop. So, there you go. Now you can...
There's your tease.
Guess whatever you want. So, we'll be back again next week for a big edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.